All right, let's jump into Google Classroom and assign a few things so you can see how that process will work. So we're in Classroom. We'll click on the Classwork tab and then click Create. Now from here, you can assign an assignment, a quiz, a question, or just provide resource material for the students to access. For this tutorial, let's click Assignment. So the first thing you have to do is to leave an appropriate title. This is actually a clutch decision on your part because it will give the students a visual indicator in this long list of stuff where they're supposed to be working. In another video, I had stressed the importance of assigning your topics to be the first Monday of each week, which I also think is a really great idea because students can take this kind of bird's eye view of your course and see where they're supposed to be. But within those topics, you might post 10 different things. And if students don't have some visual structure to understand which of those 10 are they supposed to be clicking on, they will struggle. So let's name our title the day you want them to open it. And you can't write it out because you'll see why in a little bit. Google will actually hide some of that title. So let's say 9/14/20 it's called, my assignment is called Writing About Nature. Now, I'm actually going to make a tweak here because I don't think kids, their concept of the calendar isn't as, I don't know, aware as ours. So I'm going to say what day of the week. Monday, September 14th. I want you to open up this document, okay? And I'm going to communicate that to them that you'll look for that and you open that on that day, okay? And so I then would provide great instructions. Okay? But I'm going to do one more thing here, and you can use emojis to signal certain things to your students. So some teachers might have emojis for each class. Some have emojis, like color-coded emojis for a day of the week. You can do whatever you want. Just be choosy. If you do too many, it's overstimulating and it's hard for them to cut through that digital noise, and they practically need a legend to figure out what you're saying. I only use one emoji to indicate when something is worth points. So here's how you add an emoji. You go to the Chrome Web Store. So you'd open a new tab and go to Chrome Web Store, and you'll install the Joy Pixels emoji keyboard into your Chrome browser. So when you're at the Chrome Web Store, if you search for Joy Pixels emoji, you'll see this logo, this little teal item here, and that will be what you'll click on and install into your browser. Once you do that, then you'll be able to come back here. Might have to refresh your browser, and this will appear. So I just finished typing here, and I'll click Joy Pixels, and all these emojis are going to pop up, and there are so many, not just rows, but tabs across the top. I use the arm flexing to indicate it's 4 points. So at some point I searched for muscle. Some teachers will pick the siren or an exclamation point. So I'll click the muscle. And what happens is it inserts it right where my cursor was. So now my students have that visual cue. Now, one thing about Google Classroom is sometimes if you write too much, it will like cut off the end of your title. So I'm actually going to try to copy and paste this to the front. There we go. I like that. We'll see. We'll see how I feel about that. Okay, now let's look at the right. Over here on the right, I can decide which of my students are going to get this assignment. If I actually had students enrolled, I would see all their names populate, and I could decide who gets it and who doesn't, and then what else am I going? I would assign another assignment to the rest of them. So I don't have any students assigned, so I'm going to leave it clicked all students. And point value. I keep my gradebook in Classroom, so point value matters a lot to me. There are lots of teachers, though, that do not care because they have to keep their grades in Skyward or PowerSchool, for example. So you have to decide, what do you want to do with that? I like keeping my grades all in one place. And I find that the grade book, unless you're standards-based grades, it's a nice place to start. You still have to transfer grades anyway, but it does give students that quick communication on how they're doing. So I'm going to say this assignment is worth 15 points. Just know that if you decide not to keep grades in classroom and you mark everything ungraded, communicate that to students frequently and parents that grades are not determined here in classroom. They need to look somewhere else, okay? So then I can pick a due date. Let's see here. I signed this on the 14th. I'll say it's due on Friday the 18th at midnight. And the topic is very important for that bird's eye view. I'm going to slide it down to September 14th. And I won't do it today, but in another video, I need to show you how to use this rubric feature. It's phenomenal in Google Classroom. It's so good. So the rubric feature allows you to build a rubric that will pop up kind of side by side with whatever you're grading, and then automatically do the calculations and give you a spot to put in feedback. It is so nice. Once upon a time, we had to use third-party tools to make that happen, or even before that, I had a rubric on paper, and I would then give my students back sheets of paper with their grades on them. Not exactly the digital workflow that I was wanting back then, but now we can use the rubric feature, and it's great. It's phenomenal. So you can get to this later. So if you need to deploy an assignment and you know what the rubric is, you just don't have time to type it right now, you can deploy this and come back and fix it after the fact. Just don't wait too long, as your students really do deserve to see the target long before it's due, okay? So I'm going to do this later because I include this in a different video. And then the last item to mention on the right here is that you can ask for an originality report, which is phenomenal, but you only get 3 with this G Suite for Education package. So save it for when you really need it, and don't fall in love with it because it's not something you always will get. All right, so I want to swing back to the left side and note that you can include resources with this assignment. So I try to stack up everything my students are going to need for this assignment in this location. I don't make another item in Google Classroom or another material. I keep everything that has something to do with this assignment, writing about nature, together here as a package. So I can include items from Google Drive. That means sheets, docs, slides, right? All that good stuff, drawings. Or I can include a link to, say, a website, a file to a PDF, for example, or even a link to a YouTube video. So when I click on Google Drive, it will be a little laggy, but then eventually connect to Google Drive, where I can grab one of the items in my Drive account. The default is always to look at the most recent uploaded assignments, but you can also click on My Drive or search if you know the exact name. So I'm going to grab this writing about nature item. And so then it wants to attach the file, but it wants to know how it should be deployed. So the first choice is that all, say, 25 students can view the same file. That's okay. That's all right. It would be like if you were sharing a resource, sort of, right? All students, number 2, all students can edit the same file at the same time. Be very careful with this one. Yes, you can keep track of who's doing what, but it still doesn't keep shenanigans or confusion from happening. I don't honestly use that one too often, but this one I do. Make a copy for each student. So what will happen is Google Classroom will take your document and make every student in the class their own copy. It's amazing. I love this one when I'm trying to use a graphic organizer, or when I have a Google slideshow and I want them to kind of use a template, or I've assigned a hyperdoc. This is phenomenal. I love number 3. I love make a copy for each student, but there is a catch. You cannot go back and edit your version and expect it to update to all of your students. Once you deploy it, that's it. If you need to make any changes to it, you would actually have to tell your students to go in and make the changes themselves. So that would be my one caution, is that whatever you deploy, HyperDoc, a Google Slideshow template, a writing prompt template of some type, you kind of have to be pretty set and know what you're doing here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click make a copy for each student, and then I'll click assign. So what's happening now, I don't have any students enrolled, so this is going to happen very fast, but Google Classroom would be deploying a copy of each of that document to each of my students. And then I can come back here to my classwork tab and see that, doesn't that look great? Monday, 9/14/20, writing about nature. My students will know on Monday, do this, and I will communicate that to them clearly, and that it's due on the 18th. I think that looks great. Students have increased success if we just have a little bit of naming conventions and then train them in how to weave through everything that is Google Classroom. So there you go. I hope that helps you.